everybody. Welcome to When Calls the Hallmarkies. And today we are talking about When Calls the Heart, season 10, episodes 6 and 7. And we got a lot of feelings, a lot of stuff going on. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Mary's here.
Hi.
How's it going?
So good. I actually just finished one of these episodes this morning, so it's fresh on my mind.
Yeah, I
Ready.
watched them both last night. So
Yeah. Oh,
fresh
yeah.
for me
Back to
too.
back is good.
Yeah. Uh this recap might be I would say in general we've been very positive about season 10. Would you agree?
I would totally agree.
Yeah.
We've been,
Particularly everything with Rosemary and Lee has been
so
really good.
beautiful.
Yeah.
We've loved it. We've been here for it.
Yeah. And I think that continues in these episodes.
Yeah.
And I think what makes their arcs in general on the show work is because they're not afraid to make Rosemary a flawed character. They're not afraid to have her deal with trauma, deal with difficult things, make mistakes, have to learn and grow as a character.
Right.
From the very beginning, they've been open to her. I mean, partly because she started out as like a semi-antagonist. So
That's true.
she
Yes.
came in as a flawed character from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. She came in almost like a threat to Elizabeth in a way with Jack, and she was just wild and loud and boisterous and so yeah. And what a development for her. This whole, all these seasons, every season. I'm always excited when I see her on the screen. Maybe because of that point. She has depth, she has things going on.
Yeah, her and Henry are really, I think, the only characters that the show has allowed to be like these flawed characters that have had to, learn and grow and change and they're the most dynamic characters on the show.
Yeah. I mean, Lucas had a little bit of that when we were like, who is he? What's his background? But the others, I totally agree. Henry really going on some journeys for sure.
Well, and that's why I was excited. You bring up Lucas. That was a good point. I was excited about the idea of the relationship with Lucas because I felt like it was the more interesting choice, the bolder choice. But I have to say, in this season, they have just turned him into a nothing case. Like he is just perfect. He always does the right thing. Like he never
suave.
Like the worst thing that they have made is that he plays poker occasionally.
Yeah, he accidentally taught the kids poker.
Yeah.
Or something.
I mean,
or Allie.
That's about all that we've gotten. And I don't know if it was just a push because they were afraid because the pushback, people saying, oh, how can Elizabeth be a saloon owner or whatever. But he is just pretty bland.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the biggest, scariest things he does is keep secrets and try to surprise Elizabeth.
Yeah, try to surprise. Oh, I wanted to buy you a house. Like that's as bad as we're getting with Lucas this season.
How dare he?
How dare you?
That is something they should have talked about. But yeah, it's you're right. There's not much like, oh, it's way over here. Yeah. Maybe
I had a lot of frustrating feelings about these episodes, and particularly when it comes to Nathan, and we're going to talk about it. But this first episode, it's called The Heart of the Problem. And this one is Rosemary and Lee's baby has brought up memories of Rosemary's own mother and questions about her past. Meanwhile, the kids feel left out of the hot springs with all the tourists. And it's interesting because I was very frustrated with this episode and the next episode more so. But actually, all those things that they mentioned in the plot, I'm okay with. Like I was fine with the plot with the kids, trying to, figure out this compromise. And I was fine with, I actually liked the plot with Rosemary. And I think her being unhappy and like missing these motherhood questions and it not being just this, we would expect on One Calls the Heart for motherhood to just be perfect or to be like only flawed in the sense of being like frazzled, but for her to have actual sort of mixed feelings about the experience itself and to be in this almost postpartum kind of situation, I appreciated. And like I said, I feel like she's the only female character certainly that the show has had any bravery in these kinds of things.
Yeah, because that's really brave to explore those questions. I feel like sometimes it's just easier or maybe better for audiences where the writers might think we're going to have this be this happily ever after, or this, motherhood is supposed to, is this wonderful, but it's almost like people when they have complicated feelings on Mother's Day, maybe about their own relationship with their mother. I think that struck a chord.
Yeah.
For audiences. For
and
me,
I liked that scene with Faith and Rosemary when Faith says that some of the hardest roles to play is a motherless mother.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That was so poignant. I just stopped and I was like, whoa, let me soak that in for just a minute, let that kind of settle. That was sweet.
Mm-hmm. And I'm fortunate that I haven't ever lost an immediate family. I've lost my grandparents have all passed, and I've lost some cousins, which was very sad. But I've never lost a sibling or a parent yet, thankfully. And I haven't had to go through that. But I know that I've talked to people, and I've certainly experienced this even with my grandparents, where you'll be going on and all of a sudden it'll hit you, that grief out of nowhere. It could be decades later, and it's like, oh, whoa, I miss that person right now.
Oh yeah. And how poignant for them to recognize that Rosemary was grieving. This was a grief that she hadn't, and it can come through, at random times, and that you can't control it, and you're not over it. And yeah.
I mean, I guess I should ask, overall, what did you think of this episode?
This one was it was like the reasons we talked about, so poignant, but also really fun with the kids storyline, and the naming the baby storyline, and the poker little joking. It was a fun one. I had a good time.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, just to start it off, the thing that's frustrating me about Nathan. So in a previous episode, there was some uproar in the comments when I described Nathan as a wimp.
Yeah.
And some people said, oh, you're being mean. And maybe I could have phrased it more eloquently. I'll own to that. But my frustration is that it's not even that he's awkward or shy, which could be endearing.
Yeah.
It's that they have written him in such a way that he never takes
charge,
takes charge and
initiative,
goes for it ever with a woman. Like, I mean, and maybe I'm forgetting something, but he's been on the show, I think 5 seasons.
Yeah.
I think he's been on the show. This is his 5th season, and he has never kissed a woman on this show.
That's right.
5 seasons. Kevin McGarry, one of the most handsome human beings on the planet. He is gorgeous. And I mean, he has the worst luck when it comes to women in shows, but at least on Heartland, like, yeah, Lou, and it didn't end up working out with him and Lou, but at least we got some stuff. We got some action. Like, he is so reticent, and it'd be one thing if he was, again, shy, and that was part of his character, and we were understanding that, but it's not. Like, it's never, it was here. He actually says, you're afraid to put yourself out there. Missing out is the worst feeling of all. So that was like, okay, a little bit of self-awareness on his part, but it was so little, and we've seen so little actual character growth for his character. Like, what do we actually know about Nathan? Aside from his job, and aside from raising Allie, we know almost nothing else about him, what he wants, what he likes, what makes him laugh, what he even wants in a woman. I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, and this is this interesting dynamic. Okay, I don't want to step on any toes here, but I think in this writing style of making these single women powerful, smart, intelligent, career-driven, leaders in the town, I agree with all of that. But they're making him, not the women, but something about this dynamic is making him appear weaker. And I think women want a strong, confident man who asks them out, who takes initiative, who is like, yes, I'm a Mountie, I'm strong and I can protect you. And I think women would be like, I love that, so do something, show interest, date a woman.
Like, we have gotten to know Hickam way more than we have gotten to know Nathan. Like, we know way more about his insecurities and what he wants and what excites him, and he's had way less screen time. He's a way more minor character. He's in way less episodes. I mean, that's crazy to me.
Yeah. Maybe the dog was supposed to bring some of that out, or his interactions with Gowan or with other townsfolk. But to me, I see a single handsome man and I'm like, get married. Be a provider, date somebody. One of those women is going to be so happy. I'm a matchmaker in my life, and I just want to get him happy with somebody. And to do that, I think he does need to.
And you can be awkward, you can be shy, you can and work that all in to his character, make it very endearing, and even be a slow burn, because that's what they love here on One Calls the Heart is slow burn. But that's not really what they've developed. He's just so blank. There's nothing to this character. And I love Kevin McGarry. I think he's great. He's literally one of the most handsome human beings I have ever seen in my life. And those blue eyes, unbelievable. I just want them to use him. He's a good actor. Like, if you see him on Heartland, he's good and he has chemistry, and like it's just frustrating. It's like, come on, do something, have an arc, make him learn, make him grow, make him have something happen to him.
And we'll talk about episode 7 and a little twist in what's happening to him there, as it seemed like he was kind of moving forward with a little bit more purpose, and then it got cold water in his face. So I
feel like there was like multiple episodes that were left on the drawing room table for some reason. Maybe I mean, we'll talk about it more in the next episode, but it is like the writing. What is happening? Like,
help our guy out. I know, because like you said, I love the actor. I'll watch anything he's in. And I think the Team Nathan fans they are owed a great storyline and great character arc for him, because they've stuck around and they are loyal to him, and they cheered for him. So
ho ho ho, we'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcasts, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Saying, oh, well, he should have been with May. What? He was, she was gone for almost the whole half of last season. And what, they had like 3 conversations. It's not like there was some like, ooh, big kiss or big moment. They had like a couple flirty interactions at the pharmacy.
I wanted that to be something, but maybe it was just, in those days in your 20s and around a lot of single people, you'll flirt with anybody.
Didn't she help him with his horse?
Yes, she did.
So like a few little things, but like, just, I want more. I want more. I want some. I mean,
Well,
this is When Calls the Heart. I understand that it is going to be very conservative and very
right.
tame, but like, if you think about Jack and Elizabeth, they had some pretty passionate scenes.
They
I mean,
did.
let's not forget that scene in the cave.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, and then this is going to lead into a little bit of my frustrations with Faith's character. I don't know. I feel like, and maybe it's because of different things that other actors have to do in their own lives, but I'm like, can we give her, she'll get involved with someone and then it's like, oh, I don't know. It's too soap opera-y.
But not in like a dishy, satisfying soap opera way. You know? Like, that's what's great about soaps, is they have like these over the top like plots that are really fun. And so I would love if like I don't know, there was a scene where, let's say, May or Faith or anybody, I don't care who it is, you'd have a scene where they get really close and maybe there's like one of those movie falls and they look into each other's eyes and either they almost kiss and they're just trying it out and oh my gosh, or they go on a date, or I mean, I guess we got a dance,
a little hand holding.
Yeah, we got a dance, but I don't know, just something fun, please. I just it's making me crazy that you have this talented actor, you have this incredibly handsome actor, and he is just being so underused, and it's like, come on, give us something. Like
Bill's getting more traction, it feels like, at least in this episode 6 with like Madeline, than we're seeing with this Nathan, who you think this is the time of his life where he'd be like, okay.
I mean, all of the women would be all over him and would be I mean, this is a town with mostly women. They need men, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just annoying. Also, so on Twitter, there was, I thought, a very interesting tweet that it's at the Classics 22 is her name. And she says, one more honest question as I try to wrap my head around season 10. When Calls the Heart is an ensemble show, but at its heart, it's Elizabeth's story. 7 episodes in, what's her season 10 story? Her engagement hasn't been a focus, nor teaching, other than being Rosemary's best friend. What's her season 10 story? Ooh. And I thought that was a very insightful point. And I completely agree, because we've had almost nothing with the wedding. Almost nothing.
Yeah, they talked, should we do fall? Should we do the city? Okay. And then it stopped. So part of me is like, when are they going to get married? They're not even.
It's definitely not happening in this season. No
they
way.
Haven't talked about it at all since what, episode 1, maybe 2.
Yeah.
And Agatha
there was the one conversation with Agnes and
right?
Agnes. Was it? Oh, Agatha. There was the one conversation with Agatha and Julie about her dress.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And whether
rustic versus.
Yeah. That's it. That's all we've had in 7 episodes.
Yeah. And things are like, time is passing. The baby's getting older. Like, I mean, and it's just like they've stopped talking about it. Like, I don't know.
And I know the show isn't historically accurate, but you did not have long engagements back then.
No,
that was not usually a thing.
Yeah, you got married and you started building a life together and trying to prepare for like the long winter, and
because frankly, I mean, they had chaste couples back then, and you didn't want to risk scandal,
right?
And so you got married quickly for the most part, or you certainly would have debated it would be a thing, like it would be a challenge. It'd be like, oh, we got to, keep our hands off each other. We got to, and
have a chaperone.
Most of these episodes, you wouldn't even know that she is
going to get married. Like they're engaged. Yeah. They've just stopped. They've just kind of dropped it. I mean, he talked about building the house, it's assuming that, when they get married, they'd live there, but they didn't really, use that opportunity to be like, oh, and then the timing is,
So I thought that was an excellent point.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, what is Elizabeth's story? Most of the time she's almost showing up as it's leaning more ensemble now. I mean, we know Bill's story, we know Henry's story, we know Madeline's story, but Elizabeth this season, yeah, that's a great point. And I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah, no, she's had really nothing.
She's a supporter for everybody else. She's supporting Gowan. She's supporting Rosemary. You know, yeah.
Yeah. We also had a fun enough little plot in this episode with the Canfields and the barbecue.
Yes. Okay. Being from Missouri, I loved that plot line. I totally, if other people are like, what are they talking about? St. Louis style versus Kansas City style barbecue and how they were competing against each other was really cute, because my husband and I, we cheer for rival teams. He's a University of Utah guy and I'm a BYU gal. And it's just funny. It can be good when you're a lighthearted teasing couple where you use those things to like support each other, but tease each other and build off of each other. And the Canfields totally do that with this barbecue. It's so funny. She's like, and then you can vote, but vote for mine.
It was really cute. And that they had the end be, Bill saying, I mixed the two sauces together. And it was the perfect combo. That was cute. That was good.
Really cute.
Yeah.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy,
and me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
So I liked that. And then you, like I said, this whole plot line with the kids trying to figure out a solution because they want to be at the hot springs, but
the cranky tourists
are there. And so they're trying to figure out a solution. And basically the solution ends up being give the tourists more to do.
Yeah. I mean, they're almost turning this into like a resort town. If now we have, these other activities for you to do instead of just the hot springs. Mr. Mitchell, that's who I wrote down as the cranky customer, whines over miscreants splashing him. And then he does get splashed in the end.
Yeah,
so
that was funny. That was cute.
That was really cute. And he's like, oh, okay, fine. But I saw this on Twitter when Hickham's like, maybe we could do calisthenics. I've been doing some since Faith talked about it. And he's got his arm on the bar. And if you see Lucas's eyes, he's like looking at his guns. He's like looking at his arm, like, whoa, he does have muscles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He has been working out.
Well, and I also liked that they gave the kids like autonomy to figure out this situation. So often we think that we handhold kids and think that they can't figure it out. And one of the things I think I always loved about Home Alone growing up was the idea that Kevin McAllister could figure all this out all by himself. He didn't need help. And that was very attractive to me as a little, very independent kid. And these are, for the most part, older children, teens and older. And they are remarkably capable.
They are. And it's time for them to start stretching and growing, finding solutions, starting to look for ways to be leaders, because they will be the town's next leaders, I think. And that's exactly right. Like helicopter adults and parents. And I tend to do that myself. And I need to step back and be like, okay, what are some of the things you can think about this problem? And what would you do? And how can you practice talking to adults? And so that was a really great whole thing with that.
Well, and oftentimes they can bring a fresh perspective that, we don't think that a certain thing is an option, and because of preconceived notions that we have as adults. And and then you talk to the teens and they say, oh, well, what about this? And what about, so I liked that they were given kind of agency and control over the situation.
Yeah. They can lead. If adults let them, they can do it. And they did. That was great.
Yeah. And so we got a few scenes with this Harry character who's still working for Florence and Ned. And I want to reiterate, big fan of his, more of him. I really like, it was Brendan McRae the actor, really like him. I think he's great. Big win for me.
Yeah.
I like him.
I know, it was good. I really liked that too. And showing that change and growth can happen. And here is this guy who's doing that.
Yeah. And his parents said no to the railroad. And then now he regrets it. And they missed the chance to get the money. And so he's from this sort of perspective of don't fight change, is telling Bill and everybody, and that you might regret it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We also have Joseph Campfield. He's been working with Lee, and but they find out that Eagle Creek has lost their pastor, which I remember they didn't have a pastor in Hope Valley for a long time. Like at least 3 seasons.
Yeah. Well, and it's reminding me of Little House on the Prairie, when they didn't have a pastor in South Dakota, the books, not the show, for a while. And just met, I think they had a traveling one that would come and preach, and everybody would come into the meetings, and then they had to kind of do without for a while. And so it's interesting to see Joseph's arc about what he wants to do and in this path.
Well, if you've seen Love Comes Softly, in that first movie, they have to get married the next day because the pastor is only going to be in town, and then he won't be back for a whole nother year.
That's right.
And that's why they can't just wait. They have to do it right then.
Yes, because they've got
and so then we do get this kind of cute scene where Lucas is trying to teach the kids how to bargain and how to get their way with this Mitchell guy. And he says, don't show all your hands. Don't show your hand. Some of these card metaphors. And Allie's like, can I learn to play poker? And Nathan's like, no, you absolutely cannot. That was funny. It was cute.
Yeah, I know. And the looks that all the adults are giving each other, and then Lucas is like, ugh. Yeah, I loved all that.
Yeah. So then we have Bill. He's getting the house ready for Madeline, and he asks Nathan for help. And that's when Nathan says, you're afraid to put yourself out there. Missing out is the worst feeling of all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, wow. I guess at least some self-awareness.
Well, I know. Well, and then when they're talking a little bit later on in the street, and Nathan's just staring at Faith. And so because I'd forgotten that he'd said that earlier about missing out, because then Bill starts rambling about basic training. And then he goes, either you're in or you're out. And it's kind of like, so he's kind of given Nathan a pep talk here, kind of related to, hey, if you said that earlier, then do something about that.
Practice what you preach.
Exactly.
Yes. And then we have more with this Rosemary and her mother and her feelings about her mother. Her mother left when she was 5 and then died when she was 18. She never seen her again. And say, blessed are those who mourn so they can be comforted. That's what Joseph says. And he says, it's the little things that help us feel close to those we've lost. And I think that is true. Sometimes, I mean, just like a song, or whenever I go to a play that has tap dancing, it makes me think of my grandma, because she loved tap dancing in any kind of show. She was a big fan of the Rockettes, that kind of spectacle she loved. And so whenever I see that kind of thing in a play or show, it makes me think of her. I don't know, just sometimes food. Like if I eat apple pie, it makes me think of my grandfather, who I loved so much.
Pie makes me think of my grandpa too. Yeah, and those good memories. Yeah, and so that was just great advice from Joseph about maybe mementos can be helpful. And Rosemary didn't want to think about it. She's like, that trunk should be gone. I don't even want to think about it. But I think that's exactly right. When we lean into those things that help us connect to our ancestors, like you, and you have those memories, and I just think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lee finds this chest that she had wanted him to get rid of because she was angry. I think that's the other interesting thing, is that for them to allow a character to be bitter and be angry, I think is good. And people might be surprised to hear you say that, but in a television show, in order to be invested in the characters, they have to have human moments. They have to have moments where they are angry, upset,
they look like us,
happy, sad, everything in between. I mean, you're spending multiple story arcs. I mean, you don't want these paragons of virtue, at least I don't, that never have weak moments.
Yeah. Humanity.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes the Hardys are so afraid to allow their characters to have vulnerable moments where they make mistakes and they have to learn and grow and forgive, and all that's part of life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know often the show might be looked at as an escape, or, oh, you just want something happy and fluffy, but it's never really been that, because it is a show. Like a movie, you can have that kind of escape. It's all contained. But in this way, when you've got time to grow and learn and see different experiences, it can mirror what we go through, because then you see and you learn from it, and maybe you get some insights into your own life. And maybe I'm thinking too deeply about my husband. Always like, it's just a show.
I mean, that was the problem I always had with Abigail. And she was perfect. She never made any mistakes as the mayor. She always had the right answers to every question. And it's just not that compelling. It doesn't draw you into the story. It doesn't make you, oh, what's going to happen next week? Because you have to be invested in the characters.
Yeah. And maybe it's a little bit aspirational, like if I were only like Abigail.
Yeah. And so for this was a good character arc for Rosemary. And I like that it was a couple episodes. It wasn't instantly resolved with this whole thing with her mom. And her pretty much the whole season, her arc has been struggling with motherhood, which for One Calls the Heart is refreshing.
Yeah. And goodness, though, it was quite the interesting, what's the word I'm looking for? Not reason. Well, you're the reason her mom was gone. I don't think she didn't know that at all. The truth was that she wasn't allowed to visit her children. And then that shifts everything for Rosemary to find out that truth, that because she, I think, probably blamed herself, like, oh, it was me. She didn't want me. Why did she leave me? And instead it was a little bit, it was shifted to be a little bit different when she understood. And then I think she was able to forgive.
So she finds the letters from her mom to her. And I would have even enjoyed hearing a little bit of these letters, or it would have been cool if they'd had the budget to do like some maybe flashbacks.
Oh yeah, with some
to the mom writing or something like that. Could have been neat.
That's true.
But nevertheless, it was good. And then she says that even if I felt like I didn't have a mother, she was always with me. Because what happened is because her mother left, her father got full custody and refused visitation. By the mother.
Which that was so heartbreaking to hear. I think about, there are people I know today who, for various reasons, have set what they call boundaries. But to me, it's you're cutting your own mother or parents out of your life. I don't know how healthy that is either. I mean, it hurt Rosemary not to have her mother in her life,
like obviously every situation is different, and sometimes people are truly toxic and they need to not be in our children's life. But for the most part, and I've said this many times before actually on the podcast, like most of the time, more love for our children is not ever going to be a bad thing. If there's more people in their life who love them and support them, then Yay.
You only
Everybody
have
wins.
Yeah, because once they're gone, then there's no way you can reach them and talk to them.
Yeah.
So
and there's so much that matters in those very, very early development ages, that the love and the tenderness, stuff that for the most part they're never going to remember. They're never going to, but it's all about building character and helping someone feel treasured and loved. That's very important to actually like their physical development as humans.
Yeah, it's very true. We're getting deeper than I whoever thought from Hallmark show.
Yeah, we bring it all the way.
I know. They're like, you do what now? I'm like, yeah, I love that show and I talk about it on a podcast. And it's got so many good lessons. And so.
Yeah. Well, so then Bill turns over the lease of the place, the property, to Madeline.
Right.
And so then then Lucas welcomes Madeline to town. There's obviously more going on there. We know that. And then you have a long lingering look between Nathan and Faith. And then Bill says, "Are you in? Or are you out?"
Yeah. So he walks over and he does something.
And that's when he asks Faith to dance.
Yeah.
This was like incredibly bold move for Nathan.
Yeah. Wow. It's huge.
What? Which makes the next episode so frustrating. But they announce the name Marigold Elizabeth Coulter after her mom. It's very cute. Very cute.
I love it so much because I'm Mary Elizabeth, and another name we thought of for our girl was Goldie. I mean, I love when they said the name, I was like, I love it.
Yeah, it was really cute. Yeah, I would give this episode like a 7. It actually wasn't that bad. It was fine. It was just combined together in my general frustration with the character arcs.
Yeah.
The season.
Yeah.
Are getting to me.
I know. Yeah. I could feel that from you.
All right. So
I was at an 8. The cornhole was the rope pull and cornhole were pretty.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
But I think I'm at an 8.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
So episode 7, Best Laid Plans. When a former student visits, Elizabeth thinks she may need her help. Meanwhile, Lucas orders something for all of Hope Valley to enjoy if they can get it working. And I guess this is also interesting because neither of those plot points bothered me. They were both fine. Like Rosalind coming back was good, and the interaction with Henry was interesting, and like I'm fine with that, and everything with the radio was cute. So it's just kind of interesting because just by the summaries I'm like, these episodes are fine.
Yeah, they're fine. Nothing big happens though. Like if you accidentally missed an episode this season, this one you could probably miss, and I'm guessing not miss much, and next episode be like, wait, what did I miss? Except for maybe the Rosalie stuff.
Yeah. Well, I did the laugh with Hickam doing calisthenics. That was really funny.
I loved it so much.
Yeah, that was good.
I was missing Caroline on this because I know she's.
I know.
Oh goodness, him leading the classes, and he's like, this is my 3rd one this morning.
Yeah. And I even liked the whole little plot with the man who passes out. They bring him in. He's like, you're not a doctor, you're a female,
I know.
And so then they have Hickam pretending to be the doctor.
Yeah, great plot line.
That was funny. And
it was so funny.
When May is like, is the
And you're
pharmacist.
telling me she's a
he's like,
female pharmacist?
he's like, what is happening?
The
That
only bad
was
thing-
funny. That was funny.
Yeah. The only thing was how quickly he recovered with like a sip of water. Like that badly dehydrated where you're like out of it and not lucid. You need like IVs, which they didn't have.
That's true. Well, she gives them a salt pill, but still.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah,
okay, that kind of brings him back.
Well, Hickam gives them the salt pill.
That's true. Dr. Hickam.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting how this episode did show two women who were not being valued for their talent and their skills? Fiona with the radio, and they're like, no, it's not that.
Right.
And then three women, and then May and Faith having these careers that they're very good at, and they're being mansplained to or dismissed by the men, like, oh no, that's impossible.
Yeah. I guess the thing that just absolutely makes no sense in this episode is you have Faith and Nathan talking about the supposed relationship that they had and that they tried things out. Oh, it didn't work. I'm like, oh my gosh, how much would everyone watching love to have seen that?
I know.
I mean, it's like they are afraid to have this incredibly gorgeous man in a relationship on the show. And so we just talk about the fact, we tried it. What?
That's just see much of it.
That's just bad writing.
Yeah. That's why I also got a little bit mad at Faith's character, because I was like, be happy. Stop rejecting the men and having these weird things happen where all of a sudden it's not going to work out. Like,
yeah. It really feels like there were episodes cut. It's just so weird. Like, I can't think of any other show where you have these long conversations of what would be fairly significant that we just talk about the fact that it did happen, and we're all left to be like, what?
Yeah. Like, he walked her to the office twice, and he dances with her. Is that it? Is that all because she acts like they tried it, but what? Like,
she says nothing's changed since we last tried. There's something in the way. I wish things could be different. What are you talking about? Oh. We have seen literally nothing. They had one dance.
Yeah. No, really.
I mean, are we like getting into like full in Puritanism where like they had to be on like another sides of the room and like
certain? From that Studio C skit. For certain? Yeah. No doubt.
Just so confused. Like, that is poor writing. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
To have characters talking about what happened instead of actually showing us what happened, that's bad writing.
I know. I really, really was confused by that.
And then he says, I miss being friends. What are you talking about?
You are still friends. You've been friends this whole time.
We've never seen anything but friendship.
You haven't held hands, put your arm around her, let alone kissed her.
I miss being friends. I'm sorry you had this incredible romance that none of us got to see.
Was it just too, awkward sitting across the room from each other with a chaperone when he was courting you? Like,
then he says, well, let's go back to the way things were. What are you talking about?
They're still the same. I know. This is twice you fucked me to work this week.
I'm so confused. What? I don't know. It's bizarre.
It's going to be easy for them to go back to friends, because it's hard if you're like full on dating someone, like in a relationship. By then, if you break up, you just have to move apart. Like,
we'll go back to being friends.
Yeah.
When, like, go back from what?
I know.
It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. It's terrible. And it just, there's not, I don't have a problem when characters are have a variety of behaviors. Selfish, kind, unkind, sad, all different things. Because again, human beings here. But it has to be reasonable. It has to make sense with what they have developed as a character, that, okay, this person would make this selfish choice at this moment, and it's reasonable for them. When characters are just completely random and saying things that make no sense with what they have built up for the characters, then it's just really frustrating. And people that didn't like the idea of Faith and Nathan together are like, oh, I'm so glad they walked away from that. I'm like, I just want them to do something. I don't care who who Nathan ends up with. I just want him to have a personality. I just want him to have an arc. I just want him to do something.
Yeah. He's so sweet. And it's almost like at this point, how being bold. Well, I would like to see it. Yeah, you're right. I was trying to talk through. Let me think. Would that be out of character? No, let's just see something. Yeah, I agree.
Like the honestly, I'm trying to think if I can think of there's like things where he followed her when with the bandits and then went after the bandit. That's about as bold a step as we've gotten from Nathan with either Faith or Elizabeth. I mean, what did he do with Elizabeth? That was my point from the very beginning. They had never had a meal together. They had never spent they had hardly spent any time actually together.
Didn't he brush the two of them once in the barn? They were in the barn together.
There was like one scene where there were a couple scenes where they were outside her house.
Oh yeah.
But very little time spent together. And I think because it's like a Mountie teacher show, that people were just like, okay, including myself. I thought, okay, that's where they're going to go because that's what the show is. Yeah. And then they didn't. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But when you really think about their interactions together, there was no romance.
Yeah.
None. There was no kiss. There was no almost kiss. There was no date. There was no romantic, like really banter. I mean, almost every conversation they had was about Allie.
Yeah.
So that's why when it all happened, I was surprised that When Calls Her Heart took the bolder step of having her be with Lucas. But in when I really think about the storytelling, I wasn't surprised because there'd been almost nothing given to us between the only other thing I can think of is at the bridal shower or whatever that was, the shower where she had to hold hands with her true love.
That's right.
Which makes no sense.
Oh, yeah.
Given the choice. But
that
was
so awkward.
That's about it. That's the extent of Nathan's love life that we've gotten on this show.
He's held hands once briefly. So when I was at BYU, if you held hands with a guy, you owed your roommates M&Ms.
And I owed some serious M&Ms. Oh my gosh.
That doesn't even count because he didn't do it on purpose. But speaking of going from, exploring that road of romance and then going back to being friends, they've done that. I mean, there was a scene in this episode where they look at each other and like smile like it was an inside joke and all of that. And I thought, well, to me, it would still be awkward to be around town and be like, yeah, you wanted to date me, but then you didn't. But they've smoothed it over.
Yeah, I guess.
It's enough time that passed. It's been months and months and months.
They're able to go make that incredibly tough decision to go back to the way things were. What? Makes no sense. And so then we have this whole thing with Rosalind and Henry. And Henry, he wants to help Rosalind. He feels bad about everything that happened in the mine. And Rosalind hates Henry.
He's cold shoulder glares that could kill. Yeah, she's not. Why is he here? She's not happy.
And I also thought it was kind of funny when she tells Elizabeth, "You were my favorite teacher." What other teacher?
Touche. Yeah, you're like, I was in a one-room schoolhouse, like with you. That was it. It was you.
Right.
Yeah, and she didn't go on, even though she's talking about going to college. And here's a little bone I have to pick with this, because again, I know that we are in a time period here, but yet not, because we're putting 20th century, 21st century stuff back then. This whole idea where she was dating someone it sounds like she liked. He wanted to get married, but he didn't want me to work. So she's just dropping him. Like in that time, to have protection and to have stability, you got married. And if you're in love, you got married. You weren't like, oh, I can only be married or I can have a career. But she also seemed kind of wishy-washy about the career. Yes.
It'd be one thing if she was like, this is what I want. I want to go be a nurse. And so I'm willing to sacrifice this love, or I'm willing to, or I'm so she was like giving it up, but like I guess trying to sort of pretend that she didn't want it, because
she wouldn't tell her mom about it.
It seemed like
could
she
blow
wasn't
up.
that
Yeah,
determined to be a nurse.
I kept waiting for something big to happen, like Elizabeth would tell it to, Rosemary, to be in the Valley Voice, and then her mom Molly would be like, what? But it was kind of,
it's too bad that they have her with this other guy, because I could see her and Harry, the young guy. It's working at Ned and Flo's.
Let's do it. If she let's do this. Okay, so she stays in town.
That would be so good.
I hear matchmaker right here.
Yeah, the bandit and the nurse. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got it. Mm-hmm. But so Henry overhears about Rosalind talking about school, and so he decides that he's going to put up a scholarship, an anonymous scholarship, for Rosalind, and so he talks to Lucas about it, and I think this is a great solution. I don't think that, because Elizabeth started pushing him like, no, you need to, she says, what are you afraid of? And he says, I need her to be okay more than I need forgiveness, which is actually a really nuanced, thoughtful thing for Henry. Like, this is not about him. This is not about him assuaging his guilt of what he might feel.
It's pure concern for her.
Yeah. And so I actually agree with him. Like, there's no reason to keep it. I mean, it would be only for his benefit. It wouldn't really benefit her that much at this point. She's not ready. And then she would not take the scholarship because it's from Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I doubt they'll go that way. I'm sure that they'll have some kind of big, confrontation about it coming up.
Yeah.
But I actually think his solution is quite elegant and thoughtful.
It really is. Because he's like, this could get her where she wants to be more quickly, and and it's not like, look what I did for you, it's just, this is for you. And I love that Rosemary is like, sure, Lucas, it's anonymous, it's really you. He's like, no, I promise it's not me.
Yes. And so then we have this big crossroads for Joseph, that he is trying to decide what to do, if he should be full-time pastor, Eagle Creek, and then right then is when Lee offers him to basically be a partner in the lumber business, and he's not sure what to do, but then he talks to Lee, and Lee fires him, which was funny. It was cute.
Pretty much made the decision for him.
Yeah, and then this guy Richard gets Joseph's job, who I felt like I'd never seen him before. I was like, oh, who is this?
Wasn't that it was the dad? Was it Robert? Whose dad was it? A few episodes ago when they were.
Was it Robert's dad?
Yeah, maybe they were. He's like, we're gonna have to leave town because my dad doesn't have any work.
Oh yeah, you're right. Right. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And he's like, I don't want a charity job, and it sounds like he's come to terms with that with Lee. Like, I can do this job, and you want me because of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
it was good.
So then there's also Bill keeps talking about putting flowers in the butter churn for Madeline.
What's going on? So he packs up a whole wagon full of stuff for her.
Yeah. And I feel like Madeline is not the type of girl that's gonna like flowers in the butter churn. Like, that's because it's a practical tool that needs to be used.
Yeah.
Like, what, do they not have vases? Like, I would be like, no, I want to use the butter churn to make butter.
I was so confused by that. I was like, what is he talking about? This doesn't make any sense. He's like acting so strangely, like just bending over backwards to help this woman.
Yeah.
And do things for her. I don't know.
And we all knew, of course, because she'd been on all these mysterious phone calls.
Oh yeah. I need more time. We
knew that this reveal was coming.
And how great is it that he's the actor that's almost always the big bad man of business in like Hallmark Christmas movies. I was like,
Ben Wilkinson. I think he's played the murderer more than anybody else. In mysteries.
I was like, oh, it's him, Mr. Shark Tank. Like, it's it's that guy.
He does look like Shark Tank guy, Kevin O'Leary.
Yeah, I always think it's like that. I was
Right.
like, it's like, we're engaged. And I'm like, of course you are.
Yeah, Madeline's fiance.
Yeah. He's just so like, I love that actor because I think he just brings so much presence, but he's just like, I'm here and I'm powerful.
Yeah, I mean, he was the bad guy blackmailer in the Engaging Father Christmas.
That's right.
It's not a favorite of mine, but yeah, immediately the minute you see him, no good. Ben Wilkins,
our bad guy has arrived.
He's a bad guy. I'm not sure exactly what he's obviously trying to get some kind of influence on Hope Valley.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting. I guess it'll be fun to see where that goes and what happens, and if Bill will actually end up with Madeline. We haven't gotten any real feeling for her feelings about him.
Oh yeah, she's been quite cold, little distanced, So, but if anyone's going to go head to head with big bad man of business, it'll be Bill.
Yeah. And then everything with the radio was fun.
Super fun. Yeah, she's like, I think it's an antenna. No, it's the wires. I think it's an antenna. No.
Yeah, and she makes like the whole antenna and everything, and
so great.
Yeah, so that was cute. That was a cute plot.
Super cute. When Ned starts it on fire accidentally. Well, and I love that in the very beginning, he's like, I have a surprise for Elizabeth. And everybody's like, he never learns. She doesn't like surprises.
Yeah, that's true. That was good.
And then when she comes in the saloon and they're trying to like cover the radio, she's like, you got a radio. Well, it was supposed to be a surprise.
Yeah.
It was cute. It's a good surprise. That's perfect sized.
Yeah. And we get, and then Faith and Nathan, I guess friends can still dance, can't they?
Yeah, because that whole little look across the room where he looks at Elizabeth and she looks at him and shrugs like, oh, you can dance with her, it was we've already hashed that all through.
Yes. And so I think we pretty much covered everything. That's when Henry says, I need her to be okay more than I need forgiveness.
That was sweet.
And Rosemary does talk about going back to work one day a week in the Valley Voice.
Give me the gossip, she says to Elizabeth. And she's like, well, and she just perfect headline details coming. Yeah. And they put the baby in the office with them I loved that.
Yeah, it was cute.
Showing that we can do this. You can totally balance that when you're helping, when you're a team. Lee and Rosemary, that team.
I mean, it would be way harder back then to have any kind of to be a working woman. Not that there were some who did, but when you just think that you had to do everything by hand,
all the work that took. I mean, you have to hand wash all those babies' diapers. You have to mash up and make their food. You have to hand wash and make bread.
Everything.
Everything took so much time. You have to hand sew clothing. Yeah, everything took so much time.
So I think that would be very difficult to pull off, but there were some who did it, and especially with like a very, very, very small baby, that just requires.
They sleep a lot.
Yeah,
like, she's sleeping.
Yeah,
he was like, hot dog.
but yeah, that would be very difficult. But if anyone can pull it off, it's probably Rosemary.
Oh yeah, she's amazing. She's our favorite. We've clearly established this.
Yeah. And so even though this episode had fun things, I was just so frustrated about Nathan and Faith and how poorly that whole character arc was written. It was insane to me. I just could not believe that there was so much telling and not showing. And so I would give this a very low score. I was extremely frustrated. I would give it like a 4.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get some attention. Yeah, I think I'm at a 7 because I still liked all the other stuff that helped it, but that part really was frustrating.
It really was. So, and it's just interesting because Andrea told us in the interview that there was going to be a lot of building this season as opposed to finishing. I'm
Mhm.
just not seeing that. Like we said about Elizabeth, what's going on with her character? What's going on with the wedding? What's going on with
Very slow building, if it is. Just
Yeah.
tiny steps forward, some steps back. I
We're
don't
back
know.
to like season 3. Oh my gosh. Where it was so
Maybe.
slow. But anyway, let us know what you think. If you aren't as frustrated as I am, what do you think about Nathan Defenders? I like Nathan. I want him to be a good character. I like Kevin McGarry. I want him to have good, juicy, fun parts. So put in the comments what you think, or on Twitter. We'd love to hear your insight. And Mary, where can people find you?
So I am at _Mary Richards on Twitter, Mary Richards Reports on Instagram, and Reporter Mary Richards on Facebook.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews 5 stars. It really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Most of our viewers on YouTube are not subscribers. And so if you're in that camp, please subscribe. It really helps the algorithm a lot. And check out the Patreon, which is a lot of fun, our Patreon group. And we give lots of good perks. And we have the merch store, which has tons of Hardee's inspired merch. So take a look at that as well. And thanks so much. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.